Okay, great. We're in Orgrimmar, and in this section we're going to cover the single target and AOE rotations for protection spec Paladin tanks. Let's begin with the single target rotation that you will use on boss fights when you have all of your cooldowns available. You can see on the screen right now a scenario that describes in a step-by-step fashion how you'll conduct this single target rotation. The purpose of this particular rotation is to front load as much threat on the boss as you possibly can. Steps 1 through 5 constitute the single target rotation opener. The first thing you want to do is cast Avenging Wrath and then cast Exorcism followed by Avenger's Shield. As you run in towards the boss, then you'll cast Divine Plea, which gives you 3 holy power. You follow that up with a Shield of the Righteous. Now once you do all of these steps up to 5, you will have front-loaded a ton of threat on the boss. Referring to step 4 in the scenario, we cast Divine Plea, which generates 3 holy power. Now this is consistent with the Shield of the Templar talent. As you can see in the description halfway through, it says in addition your Divine Plea will generate 3 holy power. So that explains step 4. If you look at steps 6 through 9 in the scenario, you'll see that you alternate between a Crusader Strike cast and a filler. Now let's very briefly talk about what a filler is. In this case, the filler can be one of 5 abilities. It can be Shield of the Righteous, Hammer of Wrath, Avenger's Shield, Judgment, or Holy Wrath. So for example, on step 6 you could cast Crusader Strike followed by Avenger's Shield if Grand Crusader procced. Then you could cast Crusader Strike followed by Judgment, followed by Crusader Strike, followed by Holy Wrath, and so on. Okay, now that we've described the rotation at a high level, let's walk through an example. We're going to start by casting Avenging Wrath, and here we go. Exorcism, Avenger's Shield, getting close, Divine Plea, Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Crusader Strike, Avenger's Shield, Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike, Avenger's Shield, Crusader Strike, Shield of the Righteous, Judgment, Crusader Strike, Holy Wrath, Avenger's Shield, Crusader Strike, and Shield of the Righteous. We missed. Okay, now at this point, now that we've blown our cooldowns, all we're really doing is just alternating between Crusader Strike and a filler. So as you can see, it's Crusader Strike. In this case, we'll use Holy Wrath as a filler, Crusader Strike again, Avenger's Shield, Shield of the Righteous is also a filler, Crusader Strike, Avenger's Shield is a filler, Crusader Strike, and I think you get the gist of it. So that's the single target boss rotation in a nutshell. And we're moving on to the AOE rotation for protection spec Paladin tanks. Let's start by taking a look at the AOE rotation scenario. It's similar to the scenario that we used in the single target rotation. Much like the single target rotation, the AOE rotation scenario starts off with a rotation opener. You can see that in steps 1 through 3. The first step is to cast Exorcism followed by Avenger's Shield. Now in this particular scenario, you're casting Avenger's Shield from range, so obviously you'll have to run in. On step 3, you'll cast Judgment while you're running towards the mob. Once you are within melee range, then it's just a matter of alternating between Hammer of the Righteous and a filler. You can see this in steps 4 through 7 in the scenario. In the case of an AOE rotation, the filler can be Inquisition, Avenger's Shield, Consecration, or Holy Wrath, in that order of priority. Now that we've covered the rotation at a high level, let's walk through an example of the AOE rotation. Let's start off by casting Exorcism followed by Avenger's Shield. While you're running in, cast Judgment, Hammer of the Righteous, Holy Wrath, Hammer of the Righteous, Consecration, Hammer of the Righteous, followed by Inquisition, Judgment because we're running out of mana, Hammer of the Righteous, Avenger's Shield, Hammer of the Righteous, Holy Wrath, Hammer of the Righteous, rebuff Inquisition, get Judgment back up, Hammer of the Righteous, we're actually going to wait for the next one, Hammer of the Righteous again, Avenger's Shield, Hammer of the Righteous, and again rebuff Inquisition like this. And that's pretty much it for the AOE rotation. You're just checking to see what abilities come off cooldown and then making use of them. If you do see that you're running out of mana, like I am now, just go back to another Judgment, you should be fine. And there you go. Before we wrap up the tanking video for Paladins, I decided to set aside this special time to discuss threat management. Anytime you lose aggro in a dungeon, there's a list of abilities you can use to get aggro back. The first one is, as you can see on the screen right now in the tooltip, it's called Hand of Reckoning. This is your basic single target taunt. After that is Righteous Defense. Righteous Defense is right here. Now, Righteous Defense has an unusual sort of mechanic in that rather than targeting a mob that's attacking a party member, you have to target the party member that's being attacked by the mob. So it's sort of like a two-step process. There are macros that you can write that will sort of, in a makeshift way, cause Righteous Defense to behave in the way that a taunt does. And I used to make use of this macro for quite a while, but I'm sort of lazy, so I stopped using it, but it works. At number 3, we have Hand of Protection. This is an ability with a very lengthy cooldown. As you can see, it's 5 minutes. The way it works is you target a party member and then cast Hand of Protection, and it creates sort of like a bubble around them that makes them immune to physical attacks, melee attacks, but it does not make them immune to magical attacks. You need to keep this in mind if you want to use it as a taunt. Any melee mob that's attacking them will stop, but if they're being attacked by a caster, the mob that's casting on them may not stop. Another ability that people have different feelings about is Hand of Salvation. This has a relatively short 2-minute cooldown. It's sort of like a threat reduction ability over time. The feedback I've heard about this from a lot of other Pallies, Ret Pallies and Pally tanks is that it sucks. Now, in the event that all of these abilities are unavailable, there are still a couple of other things you can do if somebody has aggro. One is you can use Hammer of Justice to stun it. As you can see from the tooltip, Hammer of Justice stuns a target for 6 seconds. So that's plenty of time for your Hand of Reckoning or another taunt to come off cooldown. So if you stun it, it'll stop attacking the party member, and then by the time the stun expires, you can probably use Hand of Reckoning again. Now that we've discussed rotations and threat management, let's walk through a real-life example in the context of a 5-man dungeon. You'll see this in the next series of videos.